Hi there, thank you so much for being here. This is part two of two videos that I'm doing on 10 things that I learned while making a career change. I used to be a CPA in the corporate world, in corporate management, and I realized I was not happy, and so I did make a shift into a career, into being a coach. And there are many things that I learned, but I really condensed it down to 10 things I learned in that process. And why it's really important is what I've learned in helping others is that we go through a lot of the same things. We go through a lot of the same experiences and a lot of the same thoughts and changes as we go through a career change. So this might be going on for you. You might be having some of the similar thoughts. So before I hop into the 5 things in this video, I want to mention that I have created a free guide on how to create a professional life that you love. I am going to put that link below. Oh, and I'm also going to put the link down below for the first video that I have created, the first 5 things. So for this video today, the first thing I want to mention that I learned is I really had to look at the identities that I had created for myself and the identities that I had projected onto me. You know, if you've been in a career for a while, you have created identities. Well, actually just been a human on this earth. You've got identities. So you might be seen as a leader in the certain field that you're in. You may be seen as a go-to person. You might have all these kind of people's perceptions of you and perceptions of yourself. And the problem is that we become so used to them that we don't see them anymore. And that's what happened with me. I was used to being a go-to person in the finance world. So it felt really weird to all of a sudden step into an arena where I wasn't the go-to person. I wasn't the expert. And you know, this is kind of when my ego popped up. Like it hurts a little bit, right? When you've worked hard in a career and you've got to that level of status, it can be really hard to let go of. But understand, and this is what I learned, is it's very short-lived. If you commit to making a career change as I did, and I immersed myself in hiring people to help me and really getting immersed into it, that can switch really quickly because like for me, a lot of what I used, believe it or not, being a CPA was actually transferable, which is something I mentioned in the part 1 of this video, but it doesn't last for long. So that's one thing I want to say, but it does happen where you might feel like I'm not who I used to be. And it can feel really uncomfortable. It felt uncomfortable for me. You know, in my career as a CPA, I was always wanting to dive deeper into things. Like I'm a deep diver on things. And one of the things I had to let go of, well, being a CPA, it wasn't always welcome. It just wasn't always a skill set that was really welcome in the corporate world. And so I really built some walls around it and really thought there's something wrong with me. I am, not valuable because of this. But ironically, the career that I'm in now, it's actually super valuable. So the label I had created was this was not a useful skill. You shift something new and wow, all of a sudden you've created a new label for yourself, a new identity, skills that you thought were not valuable or weren't valued all of a sudden can be. So this can go all different ways as it did for me. You throw out old identities that didn't work, but you also really create new ones that are really cool and really fun. So just being aware this is part of the process can be really helpful. Second thing I want to talk about today is I had a real problem reaching out for help at first. When I had trouble, really hard time reaching out for help. And I think it was this, I'm a leader in what I do. People come to me for answers. How is it that all of a sudden I don't know? There's certain things I just don't know. And again, that was my ego. I can look back and see that now, and I'm glad I worked through that because asking for help is actually one of the smartest things we can do and being able to move forward. But it was a struggle for me. I had my pride was in the way. I wanted to do it all myself, and I used to really hold doing things on my own as almost like a badge of honor. Like I got this. I got this. And yes, I did have it, but there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And what I have learned is the sooner I ask for help, the sooner I get results that I like, whether it's results in terms of getting clients, results in terms of me showing up differently in all different ways. It's just a lot more fun too. Like struggling on your own, I'm so over with. Like I just learned that, wow, I'd rather collaborate with people and just be able to say, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. There is such power in that, and it's so liberating. So, if you've been a leader for a long time and you're used to people looking up to you, this can be a tough one. So just know that it's okay. We can't be experts in everything, and that's one thing I really just learned is I can't be an expert in everything. I mean, at the time, I was an expert in finance, yeah, but how can I be an expert in sales and marketing and things that are, online, things that I've never done before? I've never done it before. So if you've never done this before, well, you're probably not going to know all the pieces, and that's okay. So the third thing I want to say that I mentioned that I learned in this career change is that I really had to get really clear about where I spent my time and where I spent my energy and who I spent that time and energy with. I had to get really clear on who I was and where I was going, and just to accept that some people were just not going to go along on the journey with me. That's a hard one. But the truth of the matter is you are a combination of the 5 people you hang around with most. And some people just can't, some people just couldn't see me being a different person. And some people would project all their fears all over me. Oh my God, you're leaving the safety of the corporate world. Well, gosh, I think we can look around and see that the corporate world isn't safe. It's just, it's an illusion that it's safe, right? The safety really comes in actually investing in yourself, no matter where you work, whether it's self-employed or corporate. That's where true safety is. But people who didn't align with that, people who couldn't see me differently, people who couldn't see me successful, I really had to get really honest with myself whether I wanted to be around them, and I did have to cut some people from my life. I also had to cut activities. I also really learned how much time I was wasting before when I didn't have clarity. That's one of the beautiful things about getting clarity about your purpose and what you're doing. Once you get clarity, you do get rid of a lot of activities that aren't working for you, and that certainly happened for me. I got really clear on what wasn't working for me, where I was just wasting time because I felt lost, because I felt stuck. So I've eliminated a lot of time-wasting activities, and I have changed some people in my life. And new people have come in, which is also part of the experience, right? Although people leave, it creates space for new people to come in, which is also a beautiful part of the experience, because it can be kind of hard sometimes. And it was hard at times to actually admit that somebody was not going to come forward with me moving forward. So the fourth thing I want to talk about is that doubt, insecurity, imposter syndrome are normal and part of the process. I, for a long time, thought doubt meant I was supposed to stop. And looking back, I now realize that I used doubt as a reason to not move forward. I used it as an excuse to stay exactly where I was. And I sighed there because I wasted a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time being stuck and thinking I had to be 100% certain. Now, this is not to say you need to have certain pieces in place, because that's true. You can't just blindly start moving forward. But I realized that I was never ever going to have 100%, and that actually part of the process is clarity coming from taking action, confidence coming from taking action. These things all happen as I moved forward. I was never ever going to achieve those things staying stuck. So if you're in a place right now where you're feeling a doubt, uncertainty, just know this is normal. Take the steps you need to take. And those steps may be learning more. Those steps may be reaching out to people. I'm not saying you launch yourself into a new career. That's not necessarily the steps I'm talking about at all. But what I'm talking about is a step moving forward and continuing to move forward no matter what happens. And I always say, and I say this to my clients, if you're feeling stuck and you're in a moment when you are feeling stuck, do something each day, whether it's 5 minutes, because there is something that happens with taking momentum and recommitting to the process. And that's something I learned along my journey. That's what I started to do, was just recommitting, even if it was 5 minutes, even if it was just connecting with somebody on social media or just whatever it was. It was one step, one action that was keeping me moving forward, because that helped my confidence. That helped defeat my doubt. That helped me get over my imposter syndrome. So those are normal. We just got to work through all of them. We all do. So the fifth thing I want to share, the fifth and last thing in this video, and really the 10th in this whole two-part series, is that it was really easy to get distracted by doing busy work that made me feel like I was moving forward, but I wasn't really. So what that looked like for me was worrying about like the admin, the back end of things. So, what's the company name going to be? What's the logo going to be? What's the colors going to be? What about a website? Which web server do I use? What email provider do I use? All these kinds of questions. And what can happen is that instead of actually taking action on doing a lot of things, we do this, busy work. And that's exactly what I did, because it makes our egos feel good. And I'm a high achiever. I'm more a doer person. I want to just get moving. I want to keep moving forward, right? And have that feeling of moving forward. And so temporarily, I had that feeling I could check things off my list, and it felt really good, but it wasn't getting anywhere. What's the point of having a great email server or a website or a logo or a brand colors if you don't really have a legitimate business, because you don't actually have clients yet? Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's what I did. And what I've learned in this process, of course, is this is a very common mistake, is we do all this stuff because we don't want to go out and talk to people, because that feels a little bit scary. Doing that back end work, that was what it was for me, but it could be something very different for somebody else. For a lot of people that I work with is looking for a new job, sending out hundreds of resumes, finding a new job and then finding it doesn't fit, so trying the next one and trying the next one and trying the next one. So it's still busy work, but it's not really getting to the root of what needs to happen. That's really what is going to help us move forward. I love the expression that sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. And that really speaks to this. I had to learn that I had to not worry about that checklist. In many ways, I had to not worry about that checklist, because things like mindset are also really important in making a career change. And that's not a checklist thing, right? And as a high performer, you may be someone who loves that checklist, and that checklist is important down the line. But when you're starting out, a lot of these other pieces have to fall in place first. And really, truthfully, the whole time you're making this, change. Mindset is so important. Your identity is so important. Your beliefs, so important. The stories you're telling yourself, so important. All these things don't go away. They are an integral part of this entire process. So I have to keep reminding myself, and I have to keep reminding myself of this. My go-to is to get stuff done, to really get shit done. And I really have to keep, as I go through this process, always remind myself. And I also think that a lot of that comes from working in the corporate world for as long as I did. It's really about the checklist, getting stuff done, getting through emails, getting tasks done. And when you're in alignment with yourself, yeah, you still have to get stuff done, but it's always a check-in. How am I doing? How am I doing? How are things really flowing? Am I in alignment? It could feel slower, but it's not. It doesn't actually end up being slower. So that was really, one of the most important things I learned, is not to get distracted by busy tasks. So I hope this video was helpful. And again, I will share the part 1 of this video down below. If you have any questions or any comments, I'd love to hear them. Also, if you're feeling stuck and you feel like you could use some extra support in helping you move forward, please reach out. I'm happy to hop on a call with you. I've also got other resources, other videos, content I can share with you that can help you move forward. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.